So next is oral approach, meaning teaching by orally is called oral approach. Next is it gives importance to listening, then speaking and conversation. Next is it is assumed that language is basically a matter of habit. In this approach, one learns a language and not about a language. Next is according to C.C. Fries, the oral approach is the most economical and effective way of learning a foreign language. Procedure means nature. In this approach, teacher firstly present the language items orally in a meaningful situation using simple language. Next is here the students listen uh, attentively and observes activities of teacher. Next is the students first get the experience in listening and then in speaking and conversation. Next is this approach expects 50% weightage on these three skills in teaching and daily lesson. Next is this is useful for developing speaking and conversation. Importance of oral approach. First is in the sequence of learning language, first listening, then speaking. What has been listened child should learn a language as he learns his mother tongue. It is the natural way of learning a language. Next is the oral approach is not believed by most of the teachers at present, but this approach is psychologically sound. Next is it is similar to the process of learning mother tongue. One learns her mother tongue by the same process. Next is she listen so many words sentence, then try to imitate those words and sentence. Next is a mother a mother uses the same procedure while teaching her small child to learn her mother tongue. Next is now with the availability of computers and CD room technology, teachers can use this approach to teach English, and they will definitely find that this approach is really very useful. Next, characteristics of oral approach. First is language teaching beings with the spoken language material is taught orally before it is presented in written form. Next is new language points are introduced and practiced situationally. Next is the target language is the language of the classroom. Next, items of grammar are graded following the principle that simple form should be taught before complex one. Next is vocabulary selection procedure are followed to ensure that an essential general service vocabulary is covered. Merits of oral approach. First is easy method. English language can be learned easily with this approach. Next is proper sequence. It follows the proper sequence of the language learning. For example, listening, speaking, reading, writing. Next is ear training. Students get simple opportunities to listen and get adequate ear training. Next is treat separately. It treats each language skill separately. Sorry. Next, focus on. It focus on the skill to listen and speaking. Next is sufficient practice. Sufficient practice of oral work through drilling and repetition. Next is avoids. It avoids the use of mother tongue. Next is proper use. Students learn proper use of words and sentence thought this approach. Next is effective. It is the effective and easy way of language learning. Next is emphasis on. In this approach, emphasis is on learning to listen and speak in English language. Next is experience. The students first get the experience in listening and then they will have experience in speaking and conversation. Next is psychological way. This approach follows the natural and psychological way of learning a new language. Next is weightage. This approach expects 50% weightage on these three skills in teaching. Next is create habits. It helps students to for the habit of using correct sentence pattern. Next is demerits of oral approach. First is neglects. This approach neglects reading and writing skill. Next is two skills. In this approach, only two skills are focused. Next is focused. Only communication skills are focused. Next is small classes. It is suitable for small classes only. Next is needs. This approach needs various teaching devices to give practice. Next is enough. Teaching has to provide enough oral practice thought various teaching aids and situations. Next is language library. The language library is very useful for teaching with this approach, but it is very costly. Next is in our country, because of population explosion, the class are full of pupils. The teacher can't pay attention to each and every students. Hence, this approach is not feasible in overcrowded classes. Thank you for watching, guys. Please subscribe my channel, share, like, and please comment. Thank you.